What's up, my APECON nerds? It's Thorson here talking, and today we are moving on to our third unit. Unit 2 and Unit 3 were our biggest units. Unit 3 is basically about firms and how they behave. Okay, so we're looking at the different types of firms there are in the economy and how they behave differently from each other. So I'll just give you some examples. Looking back at like Rockefeller's Standard Oil, he obviously could behave a lot differently than a farmer producing corn because he was in a business with no competition where a farmer had to compete with people who were making the exact same product as him. So we have to look at how they differ and how they can profit, because that's the most important goal to any business owner. So this whole unit is basically about business owners and how they make money. So I want you to think about something for a second. Imagine that you're that Henry Subaru guy that makes these. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. His name was Ford. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize. How crazy. Imagine you're Henry Ford and you own the Ford Motor Company. So I want you to think of three different costs that you would have. So you run a business and you run the Ford Motor Company. What do you have to pay for? And what do you think the number one cost is of any business? Think about it for a second. The answer is labor. So that's definitely one of the costs they have. Of course, you're going to have to pay for lots of different things: electricity, accountants. You're going to have to pay for the different materials to make the product, the input costs. And think of three different business decisions that are affected by your cost. You can think about lots of different things. Maybe perhaps how much workers you have to pay for your workers. You can think about like what are the regulations that the government's making you follow, or the taxes you have to pay. Is it cheaper to outsource, or is it cheaper to make your products in the country? You have to think about all that type of stuff. Is there a shortage on steel? Those are the things, lots of different decisions you have to make. And ultimately, since you have to make all of these decisions, there's a lot to this whole process. So in this chapter, what we're going to focus on are a lot of different things. Next, we're going to focus on production function and marginal product and how they're related. Then we're going to look at the various costs, and we're going to look at how the costs different in the short run versus the long run. And then very last, what are our economies of scale? So today's just kind of a little introduction to costs and money and profits. So we need to assume, and it's pretty much the number one goal of any business, their goal is to not just make profit, but to maximize profit. So keep that in mind. A lot of people just think, what's the number one goal of any business? To make profit. No. The number one goal of any business specifically is to maximize their profit, make the most that they possibly can. And what is profit? It's total revenue minus total cost. So let's think about this for a second. Let's say that you open a lemonade stand. Total revenue is just price times the quantity you sell. So let's say your lemonade is $1 and you sell 10 cups of lemonade. Your total revenue, $1, the price, times the quantity sold, 10, is $10. But let's say you had to pay for the lemonade and the cups and the sign to post it, and that cost you $4 total. So your total revenue is what you brought in, but you still have to pay for stuff. So $10 minus $4, you actually get to put $6 in your pocket. That is profit. Profit is the money you get to keep after you pay off all of your costs once you sell your product. So this is basically looking at how they can maximize their money. But there are different types of costs. There's implicit and explicit costs. An explicit cost requires an outlay of money. So think of like an explicit cost of something that actually, like, let's say we only had cash in the world. An explicit cost is something you would have to have for your business where you have to actually give people cash for it, okay? Wages to workers, electric bills, costs of material, that kind of stuff. And then there are implicit costs that are like opportunity costs, things that you give up in order to run your business, like your time, okay? So if you own a business, an implicit cost is time you could be having to, maybe work at another job where you could make more money. So, and remember, one of the 10 principles when we look at all this is the cost of something is what you give up to get it. So it can be actually money, like it's worth cash you actually have to are required to pay for, or it can be an implicit cost. So it does both affect a firm's decision. So let's look at this. Let's look at an example. Let's say you need $100,000 to start your business and the interest rate is 5%. In case one, you borrow $100,000. So your explicit cost is $5,000 interest on loan, because an interest rate is like the fee you have to pay to borrow money. Let's say in case two, you use $40,000 of your own savings and borrow the other $60,000. Your explicit cost is $3,000. Okay, so you don't have to actually pay out that much. But your implicit cost is $2,000, which are the foregone interest you could have earned on your $40,000 in the bank. So we're assuming that the interest rate at 5% is both on borrowing money and saving money. So either way, your costs total $5,000, but in one sense, it's actual cash money, the explicit cost, where in another sense, it's something that could have been plus the explicit costs. So in both cases, like I said, it's $5,000 and that can happen. So with that, we're going to focus on there's different, because of implicit costs, there are different types of profits that can be made in a business. So the accounting profit is the actual money that you make, your total revenue minus your explicit costs. So when I did my lemonade stand, the accounting profit was $6 because you made $10 with your total revenue. And the costs I was talking about were solely the explicit costs, the lemonade, the cups, the poster that cost you money, actual cash. So that's an accounting profit. An economic profit is total revenue minus your total costs, which include your explicit and your implicit costs. And that's the one we're going to focus on in this unit, are economic profits. And pretty much accounting profits are higher than economic profits because they do ignore those implicit costs, the things that you give up. So I want you to try this out. Economic profit versus accounting profit. Try this situation out. So the equilibrium rent on an office space has just increased by $500 a month. Determine the effect on both the accounting and economic profit if A, you rent your office space, and B, you own your office space. So I want you to pause this for a second and then work on this and get back to me with the answer. Okay. So here we go. So let's go back to this. The rent on the office space increases by $500 a month. Let's say you rent your office space. Your explicit costs increases by $500 a month. So both your accounting profit and economic profit would each fall by $500 a month. Because remember, economic profit does include implicit costs. Okay. So let's say you own the office space. Your explicit costs do not change because you own it, and rent is the one that's increasing. So since you own it, you don't have to pay rent. So your accounting profit doesn't change. However, your implicit costs increase by $500 a month because you could rent that office space out to someone else and you're losing out on that money. So your economic profit falls by $500. So hopefully you guys got that one right. Tomorrow we're going to next we're going to learn about production function. But for now, you just need to go ahead and work on your 13.1 worksheet. And good luck with that. I'll talk to you later.